My mother called me the morning after my husband left and told me she had known for months that he was planning to abandon me. What she did not tell me was that she was the reason he left. I am Brielle. I am 36 years old, and I live in Columbus, Ohio. For 12 years, I thought my mother, Marlene, was the person who would protect me from anything. When my husband Malcolm suddenly packed a suitcase and told me he needed space, I was devastated. We had 2 children, a house, and what I thought was a normal marriage. There had been arguments, but nothing that made me believe he was preparing to leave. Then my mother showed up at my house. She hugged me and said, "I'm so sorry. I knew this was coming." I asked her what she meant. She said Malcolm had been telling her for months that he wanted another life. She claimed he had even told her he regretted marrying me. I believed her. For 3 weeks, my mother became the person I leaned on. She brought food. She picked up my children from school. She told me Malcolm had abandoned us and that I needed to be strong. Then Malcolm called me one night. He asked me why I had told everyone he was having an affair. I froze. I had never told anyone that. Malcolm said my mother had contacted him repeatedly before he left. She had told him I was miserable, that I wanted a divorce, and that I had already started seeing someone else. I thought he was lying. Then he sent me the messages. My mother had written them. She had even sent him photographs of me having coffee with a male coworker, making it look like I was hiding a relationship. But that was not the worst part. She had also told Malcolm that I wanted full custody of the children and planned to take him for everything he had. Malcolm believed her. That was why he left. I drove straight to my mother's house. She did not deny it. She simply said, "You were going to leave me anyway." I asked her what she meant. That was when she finally told me the truth. She had been terrified that Malcolm would eventually convince me to move 3 hours away. She believed she was slowly losing her daughter, and instead of accepting that my life was changing, she decided to destroy my marriage before I could leave her. But there was something even more horrifying. She had not only lied to Malcolm, she had been telling my children for months that their father did not care about them. She wanted them emotionally dependent on her. She wanted my family to fall apart so that I would come back to her. I felt something inside me break, not because my mother had interfered in my marriage, because she had looked at the people I loved most and decided that destroying them was acceptable if it meant keeping me close. I confronted her in front of Malcolm. She cried. She said she had made a terrible mistake. I told her it was not a mistake. A mistake happens once. She had planned this. She had repeated the lie until people believed it. She had watched my marriage collapse and stood beside me pretending to comfort me. That was the part one could never forgive. Malcolm and I eventually went to counseling. We did not magically fix everything. There were months of anger, suspicion, and painful conversations. But we rebuilt our relationship slowly, and I made one decision that changed my relationship with my mother forever. She was no longer allowed to be alone with my children. I did not scream at her. I did not humiliate her. I simply removed her access to the life she had tried so desperately to control. She once told me she had done everything because she could not bear losing me. I told her something she never expected to hear. "You did not lose me because I left you. You lost me because you were willing to destroy everything I loved just to keep me." And for the first time, she had nothing to say. If you think a betrayal from a mother is painful, wait until you hear what happened when one sister decided her own success mattered more than her sister's future. This next story is about jealousy that went far beyond hurt feelings. My sister destroyed the biggest opportunity of my career, watched me lose everything I had worked for, and then stood beside me pretending to be the person who believed in me most. I am Camille. I am 33 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. My younger sister Sloane had always been my favorite person in the family. We grew up sharing everything, and when I finally got the opportunity to become regional director at the company where I had worked for 8 years, she was the first person I called. The promotion would have doubled my salary and required me to move to Seattle. I was terrified, but I was also excited. Sloane hugged me and said, "You finally made it." 2 weeks before my final interview, something strange happened. My boss called me into his office and asked why I had withdrawn my application. I stared at him. I had never withdrawn it. He showed me an email sent from my personal account telling the company I was no longer interested and had accepted another position somewhere else. I knew immediately that something was wrong because the email sounded nothing like me. But there was more. Someone had also sent my boss private messages complaining about him and calling several senior executives incompetent. My name was attached to all of them. My promotion disappeared overnight. HR opened an investigation. My reputation collapsed left before I could even defend myself. I was suspended. I went home crying, and Sloane came over with wine and told me not to worry. She said, "Anyone who knows you will know you would never do that." I believed her. For the next month, she became my biggest supporter. She helped me update my resume. She called me every night. She told our parents that I was being treated unfairly. Then my former boss called me privately. He said there was one thing he could not explain. Every damaging email had been sent from a device that had been logged into my home Wi-Fi. I checked the login history on my laptop. There was one device I did not recognize: Sloane's tablet. I confronted her. She denied everything. Then I found the files. She had copied my resume, my work samples, my interview preparation, even the presentation I had spent 3 months creating. She had submitted my work under her own name to another company. That was when I realized this was not just jealousy. Sloane had been trying to replace me. She had applied for the same position at my company using my work and had deliberately destroyed my reputation so I would disappear from consideration. But I still had no idea why she hated me enough to do it. Then my father told me something I had never known. When we were teenagers, our parents had quietly created a college fund for both of us. Sloane's fund had been emptied years earlier because she had secretly used it to pay off debt. She had spent the last decade believing that I had always been the successful daughter while she was the failure. She did not want my life. She wanted to make sure I could not have it either. I could have exposed her immediately. Instead, I waited. I asked the company to reopen the investigation and gave them every file I had found. The evidence was undeniable. Sloane had created fake emails, stolen my work, impersonated me, and deliberately sabotaged my promotion. She was fired from her own job when her employer discovered she had submitted my work there. But the final consequence happened at our parents' house. Sloane had spent years telling everyone that I looked down on her. I finally showed my parents exactly what she had done. My father looked at her and asked one question: "How could you do this to your own sister?" Sloane started crying. I expected to feel victorious. I did not. I felt heartbroken because the person who destroyed my career had been the same person I used to call when I needed someone to tell me I could do anything. I eventually got another opportunity in Seattle. It was not the promotion I originally wanted. It was better. I built a new career without my sister anywhere near it. And I never told Sloane that the hardest part was not losing that promotion. It was realizing that for years, I had been celebrating her as my sister while she had been measuring her worth against mine. And if you think that is the kind of betrayal that only happens between siblings, the final story is even more painful. Imagine being abandoned by your own father, only to have him come back years later because he suddenly needs the daughter he once chose to lose. My father left our family when I was 15 and built a new life with another woman and her children. I'm Elise. I am 38 years old, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. When my father, Warren, remarried, I thought he would still be my father. I was wrong. At first, the visits became less frequent. Then birthdays were forgotten. Then Christmas invitations stopped. My younger half-siblings became the center of his life, and I became the daughter he talked about as if I belonged to another chapter. My mother never spoke badly about him. She simply told me that some people make choices they cannot take back. I spent years believing there had to be something wrong with me. At 22, I stopped calling him. At 27, I stopped waiting for him to call. At 30, I finally accepted that I could love my father and still live as though he was not coming back. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, he called me. He did not ask how I was. He did not ask about my life. He told me his second marriage was falling apart and that his business was in serious trouble. Then he said he needed my help. I almost laughed. He wanted me to move back to Tennessee and take over the company because he trusted me more than anyone else. I asked him one question. Why me? He said, because you are my daughter. I reminded him that he had another daughter. He went quiet. His new wife had apparently discovered that he had transferred most of the family assets into accounts controlled by her children. Warren had finally realized that the family he had chosen was not as loyal as he believed. He wanted me to fix the damage. For the first time in my life, I had the power to say no to him. But then I discovered something that hurt even more. My father had kept every letter I had sent him during the years he ignored me. He had kept my childhood photographs. He had even kept the birthday cards I had mailed after he stopped answering. I asked him why he kept them if he never wanted me around. He said he had been ashamed. He had convinced himself that staying away was easier than admitting he had chosen another family. I should have felt sorry for him. Instead, I felt angry because I had spent 23 years believing my father did not want me, while he had been privately keeping reminders of the daughter he was too cowardly to face. He asked me to come home and save his company. I told him I would help him understand his options, but I would not become the person who repaired a life he had destroyed while abandoning mine. He asked me if I hated him. I told him no. I had spent too many years carrying that kind of anger. Then I told him something I had needed to say since I was 15. I stopped waiting for you a long time ago. You do not get to come back now and decide that I am still waiting. He cried. I did not. I walked away from the conversation knowing that I had finally stopped asking my father to choose me. He had already made his choice. And this time, I made mine. I chose myself. Some betrayals leave scars because of what was taken from us. Others hurt because the person who caused the damage was someone we spent years hoping would finally choose us. If one of these stories stayed with you, tell me which one in the comments, and subscribe for more stories. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.